Sometimes you need to fight through the dark and the gloom to get to see some sunshine. Today, that's exactly what it'll take as drivers prepare to battle their way through variable track conditions. Hope you don't mind a little moisture as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 13 Pro Class. And you'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ewan O'Leary. Behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. We're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. PCA is also proud to announce they are celebrating their 70th anniversary in 2025. Here's to many more decades with North America's largest Porsche enthusiast group. So, as we said, we are coming towards the light at the end of the tunnel. More than just the weather here in the schedule as well. Ewan?
Yes, it's to my knowledge, only time we've had moisture on the circuit here at Imola. Very fitting to end the season on a real challenge for these drivers. It's been a challenge all through the season, of course, a real varying track list this time around. But this is one of the most difficult. The track map here doesn't quite show you the rises and falls. Certainly does show you the twists and turns of this circuit, though. A few chicanes added in these days for a bit of safety, which is, of course, a good thing, but they haven't made it any less challenging as a result than the old challenge. It's just a bit of a different challenge over the 4.9 kilometres of this circuit. The weather, though, is going to be the big talking point this evening.
No doubt. Unfortunately, not a talking point is the title in the pro class. Bryce Rodriguez, even though you can see he's within range if it was normal points, he's got drop points, which means those drop points will put him out of reach of Robbie Prescott, no matter where either of them finish tonight. So Bryce is your champion in the pro class for Series 13. The big one to watch for is Kerry Brooks. Because he has no drop points, he is vulnerable all the way down to Chris Pies there. Actually, I believe Justin Sang even is within range of him on this one. So there's a lot of drivers that are hungry to take that third spot away, which is really the highest spot that is able to change by the end of today. Of course, that is the driver's points. We also have a clean standings battle that we have been seeing develop all season long. A few more than I would have anticipated. 10 incidents for Chad Henson. We've seen drivers as low as 2 or 3 for the entirety of the season. And it looks like unless he has a very bad race, Nicky Chan, 6 points back, is really just going to have to hope for a bit of a miracle there. It's another 4 points back to Lee Peterson, and then a whopping 8 to Matt Jokel. And you can't reduce your incident points, you can only add to them, so it is out of your hands once that driver is ahead of you in this championship. Looks like we're heading off to qualifying, which will see the last little bits of the rain, and then it's supposed to dry up for the start of the race. So drivers will have to try and deal with very, very damp conditions here in the qualifying, Ewan.
Yeah, based on what I'm seeing with the weather forecast, they're going to have to start on wet tyres. I don't think there's much doubt about that, but the rain is going to stop in time for the race. If anyone's got a torch to lend us, that'd be quite helpful. It's very dark, isn't it? I guess it is 8:30 in the morning, but goodness me, can't see where I'm going at all here. Maybe this is the spray effect as well, but our helicopter shots are going to be limited over the course of the evening as well. It is a gloomy, gloomy day, a rare one at Imola, especially at this time of year. And there's a thing we might see quite a lot of. You mentioned that Chad Henson's got quite a big gap. Well, actually, given the conditions, I wouldn't say it's a very big gap, because a spin is 2 incident points, don't forget, and off-track is 1. There's plenty of off-track you can pick up around here, plenty of spins you can have as well. That clean driver award is absolutely not done yet.
That's a very good point. Yeah, the tricky conditions do kind of change the picture quite a bit in that sense. So we'll keep an eye out for it. Chad probably going to want to tiptoe a little bit if he wants to bring home that clean driver award in the pro class. This is Justin Sang, who is coming around to try and set his first time, doing about roughly 2 minutes per lap here in the pro class. in this wet weather, but expect the track to pick up pace once we get to the race with it continuing to dry. I'm seeing a whole lot of puddles, though, all around. That is going to make it mighty difficult here to try and get a good time in. It looks like you really have to know exactly the track conditions to get the best out of it, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be a mystery, really, and one that we're going to solve at the end of the evening, just how much these drivers have done rain weather practice. There's a mistake immediately from Lenny Holland, braking too late in towards Tamburello and going immediately straight on the circuit. So, yeah, of those drivers on the circuit right now, who has done the most practice? How have they been practicing for this race, and how are they getting through the evening? Because it is not going to be easy by any means because of those puddles. You're going to need to know where they are. You're going to need to know how to deal with them as well. Super difficult conditions. I think more than the puddles, actually, in my experience in rain weather, at least commentating in iRacing so far, it's the curbs and how are you best getting through this circuit quickly without hitting the curbs. They are very, very slippery, the white lines as well. So obviously they're normally part of the racing line. How are you going to get through the circuit without touching them as fast as possible? That is, at least in my experience, almost the bigger challenge than where the puddles are. Although that is a bit of a challenge. They're just sort of everywhere. You just sort of have to deal with it. It's the curbs that you've got to avoid using that makes it very interesting.
Yeah, much like in real life in iRacing, the painted sections do get very, very slick. And a part of that, too, is they have those sort of runoff areas on the exits of some corners that in dry conditions they'd usually use. Here, they probably want to tiptoe if they find themselves stretching out to that paved area on the outside of the circuit, because it is also very slippery. As we watch Kerry Brooks come down into Ravazza, I think we're going to be getting our first times on the board here very shortly, and then we'll start to see the pecking order as he exits out of the final apex. It's just get on that throttle nice and smooth, and yeah, there you can see that wet racing line. He did not come close to the exit.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be doing it, especially on the way to that front straight. It's the longest flat-out section on this circuit. You cannot afford to get a bad run as Kerry Brooks goes over the line with a 2:03.9. That is very slow compared to the dry weather conditions, but that might be quite a quick lap time compared to everybody else. At least he's got a lap time that counts as well. That might well count for quite a lot as well.
Arthur Chan still hasn't put one down, but Kerry Brooks with the quickest so far, about a quarter of a second faster than Thomas Briggs. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw a fair bit of separation out here because of how difficult the conditions are in qualifying. Also want to give a clarification that while Bryce Rodriguez, by our math, cannot be caught, that is all, of course, pending. He has not officially been crowned champion yet. So he is provisionally our champion in the pro class until all the stewards are happy with everything after the last checkered flag. Chan going a little bit farther out on the exit of Ravazza and towards the line. Let's see what this lap time looks like as he gets ready to cross that timing line. It's a ways down the straightaway, and it's a 2:07.4. It's only good enough for 7th for Arthur.
And look at the gaps as well. This is absolutely not unexpected by any means. These gaps in the wet weather conditions are going to be a lot bigger than what you see in the dry. That's not the drivers down towards the back doing a bad job. That is just the general run of things in wet weather conditions. When in any sort of tricky conditions, to be honest, you generally see gaps go out. I mean, look at how slow it is in some of these places. Lenny Holland there tiptoeing over the top of the hill there. That's the Variante Alta, turn 14 and 15 there before the plunge back down the hill again. You might even be braking before the kink here, before Ravazza. If you get this too late on the brakes, you're going to know about it, but you're going to have your accident a long time afterwards because it's a long way to the barrier, a long way to the gravel as well. Holland's got it slowed down in time, and then watch him avoiding these curbs here, just keeping it tight around that bit. Oh, he's just had a bit of a slide. He's got out in the curb. So going to be a little bit compromised onto the front straight in that respect, but it's a better run than his first lap because we saw turn 1 of his first lap. He went straight on. He's not managed that this time around. He's gone pretty close to pole, but Kerry Brooks also goes quicker and so keeps that pole position.
And to emphasize your point of the separation, pretty close to pole is 1.3 seconds off of it right now. And Lenny Holland is on the front row. Kerry Brooks is in another zip code right now. Just finding these wet conditions extremely fun for him, apparently. Justin Sang, let's see, he is currently sitting 8th on the board and about 3.7 seconds off the pole time. A lot to make up here, and he's on his final lap. Can he do anything?
Just to go to a point you were mentioning earlier on, by the way, about the battle for third place in the championship. Bring it up, of course, because Kerry Brooks is currently in that third place. Mathematically, even Leif Peterson could overtake him in ninth place, but he would need some form of miracle, and he'd also need more people to be here, I think, mathematically as well. But it's very, very close for third. We'll keep an eye on it over the course of the day, because nobody really has got a great drop round. This round, effectively, for almost everybody in that fight, is going to count. And it's only really the top two who have got strong drop weeks to fall back on. I mean, Rodriguez and Prescott have finished inside the top 6 all season, but they're both of them. So they've got strong ones to fall back on. The others really haven't. So we'll keep an eye on those drivers, and we'll keep an eye on the points as well, because all of them effectively are racing this one as if it does count, because likely it will do, and that's not what you want to hear going into this race.
Yeah, the minimum points that you can score today as it sits now is 70 points. That's for 24th position. We have 24 drivers signed up. And as long as you start the race, you score those points. So unless you have some sort of technical issue, it'll be added to your total.
Yeah. That would put Peterson out, but it would still give Henson a chance, I suppose.
Yes,
if he'd win the race, he'd have to win the race, and then, as I say, all matter of miracles would have to happen. But I'm just saying, just in case.
If there ever was a race where you could have miracles happen, though, a wet race will do that. These are the opportunities where drivers who may not have the pace find themselves having the ability to shine. And in racing, we always say that rain is the great equalizer. Yeah,
it absolutely is. It puts the set, although the setup, of course, is important, puts that to the back of the mind a little bit, and it puts the drivers really to the forefront. That's what we're seeing right now. And you see with the changeability as well. Bryce Rodriguez rocketed up to second place on that last lap time, but Thomas Briggs and Robbie Prescott have gone quicker since.
Prescott onto the front row, but still a full second off Kerry Brooks. He's found something special out here. Like you said, either that setup or something just jives with him today. Arthur Chan has been pushed all the way to 18th since we were last looking at him. Chris Braun, in the 258 now jumps up into third position, less than a tenth shy of the front row of Prescott. And that was the third lap for Chris, so he cannot improve.
Yeah, that's going to be a good start, though, I think. I think most of the drivers have actually completed their times now. Leif Peterson's finished in 19th. Who is left? I can see Ryan Cowley in the session down at the back, but it doesn't look to me as if he's even left the pit lane yet. So maybe he won't even start the race. We'll see. But that looks like it's just about it for qualifying. A very, expectedly stretched out session if you're looking at the qualifying times.
Yeah, you're right. The clock is now over. I did see Greg Arado with a chance to run a third one, but he ran out of that all-important time, which means our grid is set. But before we get to that, we do want to mention a special event coming your way very soon. Why don't we take a quick look at a video we've got about it.
Spinning into the westward chute.
That's right. PCA Sim Racing will be hosting an Operation Motorsports benefit event, and this year's event will be a 6-hour race on Sunday, May 4th at Spa-Francorchamps. What a fantastic venue to choose for it. For more information, go to pcasimracing.com/opmo6hours, or if you'd like to register, head over to tinyurl.com/opmo2025. Operation Motorsport, veteran recovery through motorsport. And going to take a bit of recovery, I think, from that qualifying session for some of our drivers, but not Kerry Brooks. Ewan, you want to show us the magic of how he got on pole?
Well, I'm not going to be doing much magic. It'll be Kerry Brooks doing the magic, I'm sure, when we watch this uptime. Let's see what it's like on board with one of these drivers at full speed in qualifying. Look how late he's able to get on the brakes there, by the way, just pulling up in time for the apex, but not hitting the curve, not at turn 1, not at turn 2, or turn 3 through Tamburello. Maybe a little bit of a kiss there, but affording himself a little bit of AstroTurf out wide there. Catches the slide nicely towards the Villeneuve chicane, which is taking a really narrow entry. But that's not the worst thing in the wet weather, especially when you've got such a short run out of the Villeneuve chicane up in towards Tosa, which is effectively taken almost normally, almost in a dry line, just a tad wider than what you would in a dry line, and a tad later of an apex for a straighter exit and the run up the hill. It's actually quite an important straight in the wet weather. You just spend a bit longer on it, and it is a bit of a drag up the hill towards Piratella as well, braking just after the crest. Again, avoiding that curve on the inside line, but affording himself a few more outside curves than maybe some of the others we were seeing earlier on. What's he going to do in towards Acqua Minerale, which is very fitting in this weather? Nearly sends himself off the road and showing us that there was even time left in this lap from him as the pole lap. Out over that curve again at the exit of Acqua Minerale for that run up the hill. Another reason why that exit's so important. So steeply uphill through there, then you're towards the chicane at the top of the hill. This is pretty simple as before, but it is very slow compared to the dry weather as well. Straight exit again for the run down the hill in towards Ravazza, and just to watch how early he's going to break through here for the kink and start lifting off already, and then diving for the apex. Not going to be many moves down the inside there in these weather conditions, and everybody taking that very narrow entry indeed. Using that curb on the entry there, which is all fine, but avoiding them on the exit for the most part, and that run up towards the line. That's the surprising thing. And maybe the daunting thing for some of the others, there was still definitely time left for Kerry Brooks in that lap time there. He definitely missed the apex, missed his marker for Acqua Minerale. I've got no doubt about that.
And for those not familiar, this pro class is the quickest class of the 4. So really amazing that we're still seeing drivers struggling. That's how tough it is. Kerry Brooks, as we said, on the pole position for the grid. Robbie Prescott will be starting next to him. Chris Braun will be P3. Thomas Briggs will start on his outside as Bryce Rodriguez, champion in waiting, going to be starting from 5th. David Fernandez will be in P6 today. Then from there, Lenny Holland starts 7th. Wang will be in P8. Top 10 going to be completed by Matthew Siddall and Justin Sang. Then row 6 sees Jesse Lyon flanked by Brett Holmes.
Already, by the way, 3.3 seconds off pole back here. Arthur Chan is 13th, ahead of Eric Sutton, with Chad Henson in 15th place. For the man, only 8th place in the Drivers' Championship. Christopher Page is going for 3rd in the Drivers' Championship today. Starts all the way down in 16th. Michael Patterson's over 4 seconds off pole in 17th, and Klaus Nielsen is alongside Patterson on row 9. Leif Peterson's 19th, ahead of Kevin Jokel and Matthew Jokel, who are 20th and 21st. Nicky Chan, 22nd place for the driver who's 5th place in the Drivers' Championship. Enrico Gregorato is the final driver to a set of time. Ryan Cowley, I didn't see actually leave the pit lane at any stage. Hopefully he does get in for the race. Then we'd have 24 on the grid for the final round of the season.
Indeed. And the other thing to keep in mind during this is the track is supposed to be drying during the race itself, as it should be coming to a halt here shortly as they start to grid up. Yeah, there you go. Sunshine out already. And we've got a few drops, it seems, still coming down, but that makes those pit stops all the more important than before. I know this is putting you on the spot a little bit, Ewan, but how do you handle this? Because this is a completely different dynamic from when they just needed to worry about fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. Needing fuel is basically going as far as you can, effectively, utilising the light fuel load that you get towards the end of the first stint and then making that pit stop. We saw it at Hungaroring very late on. There's a lot of waiting around in that race for the final 30 minutes, 20 minutes or so. In the wet weather conditions, it's going to be almost the opposite. In my opinion, you're going to be waiting for the first lap in which you can pit and make it to the end on fuel. All of these cars are restricted fuel-wise, quite tightly actually, a bit more tightly than last season, and so it means you're just waiting for that moment. I think at that point you're going to start to consider Do I want to be on the wet tyres? Do I want to be on the dries? In an hour race, the track should dry up based on what we've seen in iRacing so far, although there has been a new update quite recently, so I haven't seen a wet weather race since then. But going off previous times, I would say you are going to be looking at dry tyres by the end of this race. However, under no circumstances should any driver, in my opinion, be making 2 stops today. At least wait, even if it is too dry for the wets, wait it out until you can make it home on fuel and then come in to put the dry tyres on. I don't think we're going to get into that situation, but either way, under no circumstances, I don't think should these drivers end up making 2 pit stops.
Exactly, and I think Hungaroring would probably be a good comparison, so all drivers make it to about, I think it was somewhere around 18 minutes left or thereabouts, pretty decent window. So if they can make it 18 minutes into this race or thereabouts, then theoretically they should be able to get to the end on that one stop. But we'll see if we wind up with that, as the driver's already heading down the hill through Ravazza, getting ready to start the last race of Series 13. What's going to happen with Kerry Brooks, our pole sitter? Can he run away with this and hold on to third in the championship, beating those who are pounding at his door, knowing that he missed the first round of the season? Pace car is in. We wait patiently for the call from the flag stand. Drivers not allowed to accelerate until that is waved. And it is a long time here, usually at Imola, before Barney waves that green flag. They go by the start line, not the finish line, which is right there. They've already passed. And there it is now. Green flag is out. They are underway. Everybody trying to smoothly get on the throttle down into Tamburello, not wanting to throw it away, but look at the spray. We've already got a car off in the background. Looks like maybe we got away with a single car incident. Everybody else tiptoeing through the chicane.
It looked like Chad Henson, who's gone into the outside wall. He just clipped a bit of a puddle on the inside of turn 1 there. The very gentle kick before the opening chicane of the race. But he got it wrong slightly on the power there and got into the outside wall. Miraculously didn't collect anybody else. A very good start though from Kerry Brooks, who leads ahead of Robbie Prescott and the rest of them. A big gap though. The top six already getting away from the rest of the field.
Down into Tosa, that's a little bit wide there from Prescott. Briggs has an opportunity to try to take it away, as he's got the acceleration, he's got the inside, but the job isn't done. Piratella is going to be difficult going too wide. This is a medium speed corner, and someone's going to have to give way on this one. Neither willing to do so. They'll navigate it successfully. Prescott still hanging on down to Aqua Minerale with the inside.
Whoa, this is surely someone's going to have to give now. They're side by side into the corner, and Briggs is going to have to give it up finally. I'm amazed that Prescott held it round the outside of Piratella, to be honest, considering he was up the curb there and all sorts, but he's managed to get second place, and well done to him for it as well. It's given a big lead to Kerry Brooks, although a few were expecting him to still be close with the others, I would expect, at the end of the opening lap. This is what happened to Henson. Forced a little bit further onto the curb and the grass on the inside line because of somebody else moving over, and I can't believe he's missed everybody else.
I was going to say that was miraculous right there, just him avoiding every single other car. He did a good job keeping it from bouncing back onto the circuit as well. Big slide, everybody trying to learn exactly where the grip is on this first lap. And Prescott discovering just how tough it is to keep it from slithering off the track as Brooks is pulled away by a little over a second on the first lap. That doesn't bode well for everybody else.
Look at this again. Oh my goodness. One of the I'm trying to recognize who that is. One of the anyway, one of the drivers has got who's got very lucky there. I can't remember what team they're from. I apologise. My memory is absolutely terrible. But I can see them from here. But I can't tell who it is. Unbelievably lucky that everybody got through that without trouble. Of course, a bit unlucky for Chad Henson as well. It looks like he's carried on anyway. There's his spin. He is very lucky indeed. Partly as well that he hasn't had to pit after lap 1.
I almost think he should pick up cross-stitching, because he was very good at threading the needle there. As behind them, we got a battle for Braun and Rodriguez, trying to decide 4th place, and Rodriguez is close, but Braun will hold the upper hand into the left-hander of Piratella, although he goes defensive, and that might be his undoing. He slides off the course. Rodriguez says, now's my chance. He's going to sneak by.
He's absolutely right that this is his chance. He moves up to 4th place, and that's where a lot of these overtakes are going to come from here in these in this race now in the wet weather conditions. Certainly while it is this wet in the first third or half of this race. That's Matthew Siddle, who's gone for a spin, and he's got to be careful rejoining. He is going to be on the way out of Acqua Minerale, so he drops down. That's one of the first spins we've seen from the top 10.
And Leif Peterson also apparently had a problem a little before. I'm not too shocked that this happened in Acqua Minerale. I mean, that's a difficult braking zone even in the dry, let alone with all these puddles. Yeah,
it is a very difficult corner. And it did look a bit like what would happen in the dry, actually, a dry weather spin. But oh, Chris Pies has been hit there by one of the drivers, and they're both off. Eric Sutton is the other one in the 137, and well, I'll need to see a replay as to if we can blame anybody for that, but that was pretty big contact down at Ravazza.
Yeah, that really showed what you were talking about earlier, how the cars will go for a long ways, and there was no stopping them, dragging all kinds of gravel back onto the track, which won't help things either. And apparently that is enough that it merits coming in for the free repair that all the cars have. So Eric Sutton gonna have to make those 2 pit stops we warned against, because he needs to try and put a fresh car on.
Of course, under no circumstances I wasn't accounting for damage. I meant as a strategy, really, before anybody says anything. So this has got previous to it. Oh, wow! So this had previous to it that I wasn't expecting at all. Chris Pies got it wrong into the Variante Alta, the chicane beforehand. Eric Sutton already with front-end damage as a result, and maybe that contributes to the subsequent accident. He's on the inside curb anyway. He loses it under braking anyway, so whether the damage actually played a role in that eventual crash with Pies, I'm not sure, but it certainly wasn't helped by the fact they made previous contact the chicane before.
Yeah, I think once they see the replay, they'll realize what happened, but there's probably going to be some hot heads underneath the helmet in those cockpits, having had contact twice in one lap and one of them winding up in the barriers. Meanwhile, the 22 coming out of the chicane and carrying on in 3rd place, Thomas Briggs, about half a second behind Prescott, who is honestly reeled Brooks back in. It's down to half a second to P1 as well. Interesting.
Yeah, and the gap was, by the way, less than 2 tenths not that long ago. I think Brooks made a mistake somewhere around. Now, was that on the previous lap? Not really, because Brooks did a personal best last time around, so maybe it was just Prescott and Briggs going a bit quicker. But yeah, this is keeping him right in tow. And as the conditions get easier here, the lap time difference is going to get less between all these drivers. Even though this is Imola, one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar, if that was a dry session, that would have been quite a close qualifying session between these pro drivers, because this is the top class after all. So as the conditions get easier, I think Brooks is going to be kept on a tighter leash by the others.
Briggs putting quite a bit of pressure on Prescott in some places. So while Robbie does look fast, he's going to have to watch those mirrors a bit in these early stages. Seems like Thomas has a pretty well set up car, at least in the early wet. That could change as it dries out. That's kind of one of the things I'm also curious to see. How do you set up for your car for this, knowing that it's going to be a completely different track from start to finish?
That's really hard, especially because you know there's going to be no safety cars to bring them back. If there was a series that had... This is Eric Sutton's crash again here, by the way. Yeah, it's just... The car's just dipped left. It's almost dipped left in a way that you'd see when somebody's brake disc is broken or something. It probably wasn't that. It was probably just the wet weather. But even so, it was a very sharp dip to the left and straight into Christopher Pies. Down at the Ravazza. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens out front with these drying conditions now, as we get further towards the pit stop phase and thinking about how you're going to navigate through that period. At the moment, I can see Justin Sang off the road, by the way, further down the field.
Yeah, so he drops a number of positions as we've been watching Lyon struggling with the rear tires hooking up. We saw quite a bit of wheel spin coming out of Acqua Minerale, but he holds on to that 8th place over Wing for the time being. We're only 8 minutes into this one. On to the main straight, ever closer. Prescott just repeatedly chopping away at that gap to Kerry Brooks in the 177.
Let's see what the lap times are this time around. They're coming down by about a second a lap here. That was a 56 from Brooks, but he got an off track, so it's not the fastest lap of the race. That's going to go to Robbie Prescott, who's closes in again in towards Tamburello. This is becoming a real battle now, and to your point about car setup, maybe this is showing Brooks to be very good in those really wet conditions in qualifying in the start of the race, but not so good in the drying conditions. What's the car going to be like when you put the dry zone? Because as I was halfway through saying earlier on, if this is a series that had a safety car halfway through the race or something like that, or at least had the possibility, you might put the gamble on that you go for a dry setup and go really speedy at the end of the race, hoping for a safety car and hoping to pass everybody. But this field is not going to be brought together by any artificial safety cars. It's a pure race. How do you set your car up in that respect? I think you want to tilt it a little bit towards the dry, because surely these drivers will have known that these conditions are, it's barely wet anymore and we're only 10 minutes in.
Yeah, I think the sun warming it up because, as you mentioned earlier, we're in the morning, so it's the sun's getting higher in the sky. It's going to continue to evaporate that quicker and quicker at an exponential rate. Meanwhile, nice little battle for 14th down here. Kevin Jokel with Nicky Chan and Matthew Siddall. Siddall sends one up the inside, but can't get the overlap.
Not quite this time around. He expects him to be making some moves, to be honest, Siddall. That spin we saw through Acqua Minerale earlier, he might be a little bit less encouraged to make moves here. Even if that was ever going to be an overtaking chance for him either way. That was always going to be a stack up, and Nicky Chan and Kevin Jokel go around. Jokel was struggling for speed. Chan got into the back of him, nearly spun him round, and then Chan was spun around eventually by Siddall. And joining the fun, almost in sympathy, was Ryan Cowley.
Had a little bit of a Porsche parking lot, unfortunately, on the infield of Acqua Minerale, and all three of them able to keep going as it was very light touches and nobody ran into the wall, but that's a lot of lost time out here. Back to Thomas Briggs in that second position. When did he get by Prescott?
While we were looking at the pirouetting, synchronized swimming Porsches, I think, through Acqua Minerale probably. Yeah, it's created a bit of a gap as well. And Rodriguez has joined them here as well. Look at him in the white, red and black just on the back end of this group. So Briggs is now second ahead of Prescott, and then Rodriguez. The two championship rivals are nose to tail again.
It should be fun between the pair of them as well, with throwing Rodriguez into that mix as they come up towards Piratello once more. Brooks starting to run away once again, up to 1.4 seconds. So I think that battle between Briggs and Prescott may have had a part in that. So yeah, just I guess they wanted to get on the throttle. The car ahead was not moving quick enough, and well, it was dominoes from there.
Yep, it was a bit unkind, really. And then there's all sorts of silliness as they're trying to get back going again. Jesse Lyon, meanwhile, has overtaken Lenny Holland for 7th place, by the way. Oh, and that's going to be off. Oh my word, how has he made that corner? I was sure he was going off there, Jesse Lyon. He was all over the curb. He was taking a really narrow line, and he's made it work. And maybe that is the line through there now in these types of conditions, the half and half wet to dry. He certainly seems like he's going pretty quickly at the moment, Jesse Lyon. Last lap times aren't going to be much of an indication because he's been stuck in traffic, and it was only a 57.6 from him last time. He was stuck behind Holland for the first part of this lap as well, but just look pretty quick right now, Jesse Lyon. He's one of those drivers just aiming to finish the season in the top 10, maybe with a good result here today.
And he's having a heck of a start to this race, up 4 positions from where he began. So those passes making the hard work easier towards the end, giving himself that track position. Fernandez about 2.2 seconds up the road. We'll see if he can run that down a little bit later on. And replay on Matthew Siddall, just going a little bit too wide down into Ravaxa, gives up 2, 3, 4 positions. Woof, that one was costly.
He's been having a pretty difficult race so far, Matthew Siddall. He's now 18th, by the way. This is saying Christopher Pius' teammates with the last 2 to get through there, slip through on the inside of Ravaxa, so another pretty costly error from Matthew Siddall. But they're all going to be, despite some of the gaps that you're seeing in the field. It's quite a costly thing to do going off the circuit. You will find yourself losing time, or places rather, very, very quickly. Now, I want to reference something that Arthur Chan put in the YouTube chat just before he started the race. Obviously, wasn't texting us while driving. He said that around the 154 lap times we might expect to see dry tyres. Now, I think, you know, the drivers have only a rough idea. We've got even less of a rough idea about it, but looking around that time, and for the last few laps I've been noticing just the lack of a dip in lap times. Initially, these lap times really came down very quickly, but in the last 5-10 minutes or so, we haven't really been going any quicker at all, so I'm not actually sure we're any closer to dry tyres just yet.
Interesting. I wonder how much of that is the tread maybe going away a little bit. They've used the best of it maybe here at the start. And with the track getting less and less moisture, that means they're going to continue to chew up those wet tires as it goes on. So that'll make it even tougher to decide when it's worth going onto those slicks. As we're back to our leaders. And before it was Prescott running down Brooks, now it is Briggs. He's cut that back from 1.2 seconds to 0.4.
It's effectively a train for the lead, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Kerry Brooks again reeled in. 46 minutes to go. Let's have a look at the replay before I get to that. Oh, don't tell me Siddle's been off again. Yep, concertina effect. I think that's Pies. He just ran into the back off. Yep, he did. He drops behind Chad Henson and Leif Peterson, who slipped through on the inside as his pretty miserable race continues. 56 is all round last time from the top 4, so again, we're not getting much quicker.
Siddle does have to worry about those incident points, as they do have a hard limit of 25 and they will be disqualified. So it's not just that clean driver award you need to worry about. You can be removed from this race. Brooks now seriously under threat as Thomas Briggs is right there and filling the mirrors. I keep wondering how much of this is everybody being faster than them, and how much is it Kerry just is kind of the first one to have to deal with the track in front of him. Everybody else has a reference point behind him.
Yeah, it might be just the sort of him toning it back a little bit. Maybe he knows that and suspects that these wet tyres could be used for quite a long time, and so he's just keeping that little bit more tread on them, to what you were talking about earlier on, than maybe some of the others who are just going all out, knowing that they just need to get to the fuel opening window. We're not that far away. Oh, Briggs around.
Got into the back of Brooks, but Brooks kept it from being turned. He clearly knew he was going to get in hot, because I could see that car trying to avoid and just could not stay out of the rear bumper. That cost him. He's now 6 seconds back from the lead and in 5th. Prescott re-inherits P2. Rodriguez now up to 3rd.
Well, that's the classic. Oh, and off!
Uh-oh.
Briggs is not settled at all now. Not settled at all after that mistake, and this can happen. It can snowball very quickly, especially as these tyre temperatures snowball out of control as well. Thomas Briggs, I thought he was shaping up to go in the pit lane there. He's not going to do that, obviously, because we're still not in the dry tyre window just yet, but this is Briggs' race falling apart. It's the classic mistake in wet weather conditions. We just saw Matthew Siddle do it at Acqua Minerale. The very next corner, Briggs does the same thing into the back of Brooks. He brakes a bit too late, just taps the back of the car in front and goes around.
Extremely lucky for the 177 that he didn't get enough force. That sent him in the same direction that Briggs was going. And, you know, when we were talking about the pit window, it just occurred to me, the other thing that we hadn't taken into account is the wet weather means that that's going to open it up quite a bit more. There's that second incident, and thankfully nobody there in front of him. He was able to avoid causing a big accident. But I wonder if that means we've got an even wider window than normal with this rain.
Yeah, I think we probably do. But the worry is going to be that the consumption goes down, the miles per gallon, if you like, goes down over the course of the race. So the calculation that the game is giving to you at the moment, or indeed any software that these guys are using, that will say, oh, you've got loads of fuel, you're fine. And then later on when it's dry and they're all of a sudden using loads of fuel, the software might actually start to say, no, you need to probably pit again. Enrique Gorgarato spinning, by the way, just through Sang and Pies. Wang was just in behind one of the drive. Oh, and he's done almost what Briggs did down at Ravazza as well.
Out into the gravel, and then he'll return. You can see just how dirty it is on the exit of that corner with so much gravel. Yeah, look at that. My goodness. It's a gravel pit out there, an extra one for the drivers. This could be a problem for Brooks, because Prescott got a decent exit, although he pops his face out of the spray just trying to get some visibility down the main straight, and I think that cost him some chance to pull a toe.
Towards turn 1, turn 2 as it really is. And Brooks hangs on again. So 18 minutes, he's still leading the way, but still not going any faster. In fact, Chris Brown was the first one into the 55s last time, although he went off track at one stage, got on off track, and so that one will not count. Just been looking at the clean driver award, by the way, in the last couple of moments, and I'm trying to figure out whether Chad Henson's going to lose that lead. But at the moment, I can see that only the drivers who have had good seasons with the clean driver so far are having bad races today, which is a bit weird. I suppose expected, but a bit weird.
Yeah, it's again a testament to just how tough the conditions are. We've seen drivers that we've rarely seen mistakes from just sliding off the track. It looks like they've given us enough space between the cars at this stage. I'm going to try and squeak in our ad read because we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Just as I say that, the chicane brings them almost nose to tail amongst one another. Our top three still pulling away from the rest of the group, but it feels like it's a question mark of who is going to be the next victim of this difficult set of racing.
Yeah, especially when you talk about drivers concertinaing together in the braking zone. After all, that was the downfall of Thomas Briggs, who was right up behind Brooks, just tapped the back of him and went around for a spin at the slow speed chicane. So it was, it's a particularly nerve-wracking moment when you see that. Down the straight they come, 20 minutes gone. Is Chris Brown going to have gained any further time on these guys, or will they be going a bit quicker themselves here as they make their way over the line? Not really. I think what you were saying earlier about the tread of the tyres going away is probably correct, and we're not going to be seeing those 54s. Somebody's just going to have to gamble on these dry tyres and go for it, I think, because this track is continuing to get drier, even if the times are not coming down.
So who's going to be the guinea pig on that one as we watch the battle for sixth as well? Lyon has indeed caught up to Fernandez. Clearly that 115 hooked up in the moist track is going to see if he can size up a pass here soon. Definitely not down into Villeneuve, as that is a difficult place to do it, although he's quick off the corner. Maybe that'll offer him a chance into Tosa. No, defensive line from Fernandez will rebuff the 115 for now. Both of them taking different lines around the corner. The outside line looking just that little bit quicker. And Lyon might be on the wrong side, but it looks like the car has got the grip, and he's got it done.
Not only has the car got the grip, the driver who's driving it has got the confidence right now. Jesse Lyon is at least a couple of seconds closer to the race lead than what he was 5 minutes or so ago. And with just over 20 minutes gone, he is not to be counted out for a podium finish here, or maybe even more at the end of the final race of the season. This is a very good drive indeed from him so far. He doesn't really do sort of okay finishes. He sort of does top five or not, or sort of bins it. So I'm expecting big things from him as Bryce Rodriguez is back into the wall at the Variante Alta.
And missing that rear wing in the process. And Lyon just had an off too, so Lyon's now lost a couple positions. Oh, it falls apart in the blink of an eye out here. This is just incredible to see. Rodriguez, no doubt, is going to have to come in and pit, but then he's left with that giant question mark of does he take those dry tires or not? No, he's going to try and stay out. Here's what put him in this spot. Spins out.
He reverses himself into the wall.
And then this is what cost Lyon down the same chicane. And very similar situation, just exit of the second apex.
I feel I might have to take some slight responsibility for that. So I said Jesse Lyon was going to finish on the podium, and then he immediately spins the next corner. That feels, well, I'll apologise now, I'll put it that way. He's down to 8th place, unfortunately. Bryce Rodriguez is carrying on. I suspect he's still getting the downforce on that rear wing, even if we can't see it. So he should be fine, but because it looked like pretty soft contact with the wall as well. As we saw, he didn't go in at speed. It was just one of those clumsy ones where he just reversed into the wall and it clipped off. So it should be fine. But Bryce Rodriguez is down to 5th place. He's in quite a lot of danger. His worst result of the season so far, which seems bizarre to say, but his worst result of the season is 6th, if you can believe it. He is in danger of slipping below that here this evening.
Well, here's an even more mind-boggling one for you. those incidents mean that our top 7 are exactly back where they started this race. So no change in the top 7 whatsoever, except for all of them switching around and then switching back somehow, as we got a nice battle for 19th. Here coming around Tosa, almost banging doors, coming up the hill. That is Siddall versus Henson. Both have had their share of woes so far in this one, but Henson will back out of the incident, although Siddall looks a little deep.
Oh, he's hung on. Well, he'll get an off track for that, but he'll get the place as well, so I think he'll take that. 19th place for Siddall. And Henson will just look to avoid hitting him here as he tries to keep his incident points to an absolute minimum. And you can see out the clean driver, at least for the pro standings here this season. Yeah, I almost don't believe you about the top 7, by the way. That's absolutely extraordinary, the 25 minutes we've just seen. But there we are. Strange things happen sometimes as 24 minutes has gone. Brooks is still under an awful lot of pressure.
I wouldn't have believed it either, honestly. And yeah, this is looking like Brooks has been really just eating it up. If anything, he's had multiple cars come up to the back of him. Prescott twice now. Nobody's been able to get by. Robbie's been getting close. Nothing seems to really give him the chance to try and make the overtake. The question is, does he dare try and undercut him with an earlier pit stop? And how does he make that call, if so?
Well, I think Prescott's, got absolutely nothing to lose. He mathematically can't lose second, and he can't gain first from his championship position. So I would say, why not give it a go here? You're not going to get a better chance at a free hit, if you like. And so Robbie Prescott, in my opinion, should go for maybe a slightly on the early side dry tyre run. We're certainly in the window now where you can pit and put the dry tyres on and make it to the end. It's just a case of, are those dry tyres going to be quick enough? I'm going to say yes, to be honest. I think everybody's cowering at the moment on the wets because it's the safe thing to do. And if you're in that fight for third in the championship, you're not going to be touching the dry tyres with a 10-foot barge pole at the moment, especially Kerry Brooks, who's looking to hold on to third in the championship, even if his main rivals are a long way behind. He won't be doing anything of the sort in the near future, but why not if you're Robbie Prescott in this situation? Why not?
Watching Arthur Chan in 11th. However, worth noting that Nikki Chan down in 24th just got our first black flag of the race, and that was for an incident on lap 5. So that happened quite some time ago. We could have a change for the lead here, maybe. This is ever closer for Prescott. In fact, one of the closest moments we've seen down to the braking for Tamburello, but no dice this time for the 0-1. The fascinating thing is the differing stories between these two. Brooks still looking for his first win of the season, and like you said, he's got to worry about losing positions, whereas Prescott has very little to lose, and he hasn't won since Daytona at race 1. So he would like to bookend this one and try to get back to the top step. But question is, does he dare take the plunge?
Absolutely. He would, by the way, become the 6th different winner in 7 races if Brooks were to be able to take his first win of the season. I'm not going to read all the winners out for you, but you can. There's a lot of them. Rodriguez is the only repeat winner, which is what I will tell you. And of course, he's only been off the podium once. Will that run come to an end here this evening as well? It is looking more likely. Here's Matthew Jokel, currently in 14th place. He's 10th place in the driver's standings right now, by the way. And at a certain risk of losing it, Lenny Holland and Jesse Lyon are both ahead of him on the road right now and would leapfrog him in points as well. He might lose his top 10 if things stay as they are.
Lyon still up 3 from where he started. Big slide coming off of the chicane there at the top of the hill for Prescott. That's going to lose him a couple tenths. And he doesn't want to chew up those tires too much more. We're almost to the halfway point, and still there has been no drivers that have come in to take their scheduled pit stops. We've had Eric Sutton and Nikki Chan both visiting pit lane, but I think that was to take their spare car.
Yes, I think so. They would have been pretty suicidal 11 laps ago for Eric Sutton to put on the dry tyres, I would have said, considering that was only 4 laps into the race. But I am surprised that somebody with nothing to lose hasn't gone for this. I mean, I can understand if maybe Chris Brown, because he's actually gaining loads of time on the 2 in front of him just by doing what he's doing right now. He's now less than 3 seconds away from the race lead. But I can't see the benefit of Prescott staying here. I mean, maybe he knows better than me, and he knows exactly when he's going to go onto the dries because he knows the crossover point. But I think it's difficult to know that on iRacing at the moment. The wet weather system, I think, it's being worked so well that it's a real mystery as to when you put the wet and dry tyres on. Even if you remember from the iRacing special events earlier this year, even the very top teams are not quite sure when the crossover point is, and they spend all day preparing for some of those events. Surely Robbie Prescott doesn't know the exact lap that this is going to turn from wets to dries. I can't see the benefit of him hanging out behind Brooks. And if he follows Brooks into the pit lane, by the way, when it's obvious the crossover point, I will throw my hands up and say, what was the point of all that? Because he's never going to overtake him just following him all day.
No, this is true. And it's going to be even harder to try and overtake once you switch to the dries, because offline it's going to be still pretty damp. You can even see that there's very much a dry line that is formed on this racetrack, although there is some spray coming off the cars. They're that lighter tinge that you can see on the pavement. That is where most of the moisture has been wicked off the surface. But yeah, I look at drivers like Matthew Siddall, who are down 9 from where they started, drivers that are already having a bad day. I'm with you that it's like someone who really has nothing to lose towards the back of the pack. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I just don't see why not. You know, it might turn out badly, but you know, nobody is trying the dry tyres right now, so you've got no idea what those are going to be like. And I'm constantly surprised. You know, maybe it looks at home like it is very wet, and you'd say absolutely not to dry tyres. I mean, certainly in real life, but actually in iRacing, you do kick up a lot of spray, even when it is time for dry tyres. So I wouldn't be too fooled by that. And as I say, I would be taking a bit of a gamble if I was a bit further down in the field for the reasons you say. This is Klaus Nielsen, meanwhile, on the back of Mike Patterson, and even somebody back here. Why not? Could get into the top 10 very quickly indeed. These guys are only 10 seconds off of Wang in 10th place. Well, meanwhile, Robbie Prescott, while I've been banging on about that, has just made a mistake at top of your screen. 2.5 now, the gap.
Struggling, and maybe he's used up that rubber a bit too much. So Patterson and Nielsen giving us a good battle there for a while for that 12th position. Meanwhile, Brooks just keeps chugging along up at the top of the field like nothing is happening behind him. 1.4 seconds over Robbie Prescott. Now, Chris Braun, you said he was catching. Let me look at the lap times. 56 flats the last two. Oh, yeah, significantly quicker than both of the leaders in the past 2 laps. So the 2:58 could be a serious problem in just a couple laps time. Yep,
he's been coming for a little while now. He's been the only one in the 55, sorry. 55.9 is the best lap, and that's the best lap of the race. 2/10 quicker than anybody else. Prescott with the second fastest time. Oh, sorry, Lyon's actually gone quicker, a bit further down. Didn't spot him down in 8th place. But yes, he's the only one in the 55 so far, Chris Brown, which is a good job from him. Look at the way Prescott, by the way, has got straight onto the back of Brooks again after making that error. Half a second already, so he's clearly quick. He's clearly got the speed, but at the moment he's just waiting for a mistake, which right now just isn't coming.
And this track is known for overtaking being a bit difficult, so that's another extra added layer of complexity to add to all of this. So maybe just once he gets there, it's what do you do with it, as we check in behind on this nice little battle for 14th place. Jokel over Sang over Pies. Pies on a recovery drive. By the way, after that huge shunt, has not been in the pit lane. I can't believe that car is in as good a condition as it is.
Yeah, well, yeah. But sometimes you can get away with quite a lot in this in the sim, and sometimes you really can't. So there's a few walking wounded at the moment who maybe otherwise wouldn't be. But either way, we are probably leaning on the fast repair for those guys a bit further down. They'll take that when they make their pit stop, I suppose, but won't make much of a difference if they're waiting this long. Meanwhile, Jesse Lyons back on the charge again. He is very quick, but that mistake has really killed him in this race.
He's still up 3 from where he started, though, as we saw him pull that move once before. He likes it. He's going to do it again, despite getting a little bit of elbow from Lenny Holland. And it looks like he might be able to get this one done, although Lenny's going to fight him all the way up into Piratella, chopping him off at the apex. Jesse says, thank you. I've already figured out how to make that one work. So with that pass done, we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So yeah, it's kind of amazing watching Lyon there and knowing that he's still on a net positive for today, but probably could have been even more. We come back to Pies, who has managed to get by Sang. Now he sizes up Jokel as they head into the Alta chicane.
Yep, sorry, I accidentally muted myself. Yes, it's a really sort of congesting battle now for, I guess, 12th place is the one, because Nielsen's being caught by all these guys, actually, but might not get caught before the pit stop phase, because Jesse Lyon is in. Now then, is he going to be the hero or not? He's exactly the kind of driver I'm thinking about when you're looking at someone to take a risk. He's not that bothered if he gets a top 10 in this at the end of this season or not, because as I say, he's had some disasters this season as far as race results go. So why not take the plunge? And that's exactly what he's doing right now.
Yep, as you can see the dry tire being fitted currently, so he's going to give it a go and see what happens when he returns, and we will be watching his lap times, as will pretty much everybody else. I think as soon as they see that he is quick, you're going to see a flurry of pit stops.
I think you're absolutely right, and there he goes out of the pit lane. Let's just watch this opening chicane. Bear in mind the tyres are going to be really cold, so this opening chicane might not look very good for those wanting to see dry tyres, but let's see how bad it looks. Through turn 2. Oh, he's off already. Well, this could be a bad sign for Jesse Lyon. It's this tyre warm-up phase that's going to be the killer. He's certainly going to lose time initially, but what he wants is the others to come out on dries and have this warm-up phase when he's up to speed and he can just rip right past them. But for right now, this is going to be painful.
Yeah, he's now really taking it easy through a lot of these corners. It may have been premature, but we'll wait and see whether those tires getting up to temperature starts to help him out. As we come back to our leaders, Braun is now there. He was gaining hand over fist before, and he's trying to preserve the tires as he goes off the racing line down the main straight to try and kick up the water.
Yeah, and that shows to me that the wet tyres are quite really at the end of their tether. If he's weaving around for wet period, you don't see that all too often in drying periods in iRacing here. It's pretty desperate when you're seeing them dive off for the water on the sides of the circuit here. So maybe it explains why Chris Brown has been going so quickly. Maybe he's been chewing through those tyres a little bit quicker than the other two, but it's a sign of a pretty desperate situation if you are having to do that. Still watching Jesse Lyon here, he is losing time. So I guess fair enough for waiting a little bit longer, but when he gets quick, he's going to go off like a rocket. And unfortunately for these guys, what they might not realise right now is they're going to have the exact same tyre warm-up phase. No matter how dry it gets here, it's still going to be a little bit wet, and that's going to be a real problem on the dry tyres. They're going to be like ice on ice blocks, if you like. Well, Jesse Lyon is really struggling. That's a mistake in towards the Variante Alta.
Yeah, with all this moisture and with it being in the morning, it's 62 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. It's very cold out there. It's going to be difficult to get those tires, as Justin Sang is the next one to bite the bullet. Lyon actually had a spin at the Alta chicane, so he's been losing yet more time. And Justin either was not hearing that information, wasn't aware, or is just feeling a little bit more confident about what he can do on these slicks.
Yes, I'm beginning to wonder as well, actually, whether some of these drivers are just going to try and stay on wet for the rest of the race, because it's going to cost you time compared to the fuel that you need. Obviously, you can do the fuel at the same time as the tyres in GT3 racing these days, but it's going to cost you about 10 seconds or so compared to the rest of the fuels we've seen this season, so maybe some people are going to try and hold out. This is Jesse Lyon's spin. Yes, tried to get it round for the corner and just, there's going to be a lot of water build up there near that inside curve. And maybe at this point he'll be starting to regret his decision slightly. We'll continue to keep an eye on him, though, alongside Justin Sang as well. For now, these two are just following, though. Prescott and Brunt, they're not taking the decision to take the dries on just yet.
Did see a little bit of a poke down into Tamburello by Prescott, so I think he's thinking about trying to go on the attack here if he feels like he's got pace and something to do with it, but maybe that's been spurred on by Chris Braun arriving on the scene as well and kind of forcing his hand. Yeah, much closer now. Look at him almost able to touch that rear bumper and get up to that rain light as it flashes in the face of the 01, but nothing doing coming up Piratella as he's just a little bit too far back for now. We're getting towards what will be the end of the pit window in normal dry conditions, but expect drivers to be able to go just a bit longer.
Justin Sang's off, by the way. This is not going well for the tyre, the guys on dry tyres just yet, who are just trying to get these tyres up to temperature. I'm monitoring the sector times, by the way. I'll tell you when it's close. Because it's there's going to be a point, and the field's going to explode when that point comes. It's all going to go off. So I'm just preparing for that moment in the next few laps. It does look like they've got a little bit too early, doesn't it? As much as I was shouting for them to do it 10 minutes ago. So I mean, I've seen dry tyres work in this visual wetness. Maybe that doesn't count for a lot. How wet it looks, maybe it doesn't count for very much compared to what it actually is like. But I've seen dry tyres work in these conditions before. Right now, they are absolutely not working, though.
That was Sang that you saw coming back onto the track right there. So, yeah, he had another off at Ravazza in the meantime. Jokel in a fight with Chris Pies. What a recovery it's been from that 14 car. He is now above where he started this race, amazingly. It's only by 2 positions, but still, can't believe how well that car has been doing. And Chris is an interesting one as well, because he was part of the training group, the school that they run here in PCA to help teach the drivers how to deal with these wet conditions. And I was watching some of that video and some of the education he was offering there. So he knows what he's doing, and he's putting it to good use today.
Yeah, I can imagine him as a teacher, to be honest. I don't know if he is in real life. But anyway, he is at the PCA. And yeah, very informative in terms of how to, especially for someone just getting to grips with iRacing and these cars, and especially these conditions we're going to see later on this week and of course next week as well. Very useful indeed to have those guides, have that helping hand as you are learning the sim and so on. That's Chris Braun going very wide at Piratella in the background. I just saw, by the way, the tyres I think are starting to fall from underneath him. The dry tyres, though, are still not quite being reached for, although Jesse Lyon's getting a lot closer. That middle sector wasn't actually that bad that time round.
And I was about to say that Thomas Briggs also looks pretty quick, but he just had his own off back there, because he was about 6 seconds behind after he had his spin. And he had cut it down to about 4 seconds, but his off now gave away one of those seconds. And there he is right there. And struggling, apparently, as the tail wanted to whip out from behind him.
I think a lot of these drivers are now using up the last of these red tyres off. Is that Prescott? It is. It's Robbie Prescott. He's gone too deep on the brakes at Ravazza. He's been quite close to going deep multiple times, actually. But he's been waiting for that error from Brooks for so long. Now he's made one himself.
Is there anybody that can shake Kerry Brooks? He's been unflappable. Everybody who's approached him has been making mistakes. And Kerry's the only one that has kept it on the island. So down into the braking of Ravazza. He knew it early, and he had to dodge to avoid our leader so that he didn't cause an accident. So that was very self-sacrificing, but he knew that it was better to ruin his own race than to ruin the leader's. And he falls back to third.
Absolutely. Very gracious of him to do so, but he drops down to third in the process. Still unmoved as far as making a pit stop goes, by the way, that time round. And Chris Braun now is going to be the one to get a little bit closer. Maybe this is where Brooks is going to just turn it on a little bit more now and try and see if he can get a bit further away from the rest. Last time round was his best lap of the race so far, a 55.9. So he is certainly getting quicker as we go along. Still monitoring the times, by the way. The middle sector is where they're getting very close, but the first and third is where it gets tricky, as you're about to see here from Justin Sang. I mean, he's got very little chance there of keeping the car on the road. He was, really struggling under braking there.
Interesting that it's the second sector. I guess more of that is up on top of the hill, but you've got Aqua Minerale in there as well, which I would think would definitely be one of the last to dry and make it difficult to switch over. But I guess the rest of it is just enough that says, Ryan Cowley off the circuit and to a halt for some reason. Not sure what's going on here.
It's a bit weird. He's back going again now in live pictures. He's 19th. But that was a bit odd out of Aquaminerale. For some reason just coming to a complete stop. 17 minutes to go. And Brooks is... Oh, the moment is now, surely. Or are they running out of fuel? Well, they might be running out of fuel, to be honest. And what tyres do you put on? Last time round, Jesse Lyon through the middle sector did a 28.5. These guys did a 26.6. Do they change the tyres or not?
Let's watch and see. This is the moment of truth, and there's not much they can do to watch each other and make the decision based on the other person. It's all happening simultaneously.
Brooks has definitely gone up on the jacks. I can't quite see about the others. I don't think Prescott is up on the jacks at all. We'll get a view in a moment, because if your pit stop's about 10 seconds long or so, then you've only taken fuel. If it's longer than that, then you've taken tyres. Well, all four is 22 seconds normally, but they've not taken all four.
Interesting. Briggs is taking the tires, though, so he's the only one of those top four that's elected for fresh rubber. I kind of wonder if that is the right call, though. Yes, they've gained time, but we saw how much the tires were going off as this track dries. Some fresh rubber, even in the half wet, half dry, could net you a lot of time here.
Yeah, Briggs is apparently still on wets. He just put 4 new ones on, according to my
that's my thought. It's got better tread now.
Yeah, maybe actually. Maybe. I'm just not sure it would make that much difference in the level of wetness we're at the moment. This is Brett Holmes, by the way, in the middle of his screen. We've not actually talked about the leader, because we've actually got some people who are staying out even now. Holmes and Wang are 1 and 2. Yeah, maybe it is the right call. Lenny Holland's done it as well, but I'm just not sure the extra tread is going to make that much of a difference in the amount of wetness that is still on the circuit. It really is quite dry.
We'll wait and see. And since he was the 4th in line, that kind of goes back to what we were saying before. He had little to lose. Maybe he'll lose a spot or two if those behind him don't take tires and just come right back out. But let's see if this gamble winds up gifting him a few positions. Meanwhile, Braun has actually emerged ahead of Brooks after he had a second quicker pit stop. So for the first time, Brooks is not going to be our leader, and it's not just because of the pit cycle.
He's just, he's chasing for the first time, and based on what we've seen earlier on, Chris Braun is very, very quick. He's going to be difficult to catch as well, unless Brooks was holding himself back earlier on, and now he's going to unleash his full speed. Here comes Holmes and Wang into the pit lane. They're going to just go 1 lap longer. Not going to be doing anything silly. So 15 minutes to go, and they are into the pit lane. Just trying to monitor the guys who are on the dry tyres still. It looks like the first dry tyre runners are too far away from the leaders anyway to really be a factor anymore. I mean, Jesse Lyon is still down in 19th, for example. He's over a minute behind these guys now.
We got some more takers in the front, though. Wang and Holmes both putting dry tires on. So they're going to be our guinea pigs towards the front of the field, and definitely a number of laps later. And there's a couple other drivers behind them also going for it. Looks like Mike Patterson putting some dries on. Justin Sang is putting dry tires on. It's going to be a mixed bag out there.
Yeah, so what these guys on dries are hoping for mainly is these wet tyre temperatures to balloon and them to get really, really difficult later on, because it's still not quite time. Chris Pies through the middle sector last time round was about a second off those guys on the wets. He was about 9 tenths off what Prescott did, only 5 tenths or so off what Fernandez did in 6th place. So it's not quite time yet, but if the wets really fall apart at the end, then they'll be so quick and they'll be impossible to defend from.
That's a good point. As we watch Bryce Rodriguez here, provisional champion, currently trying to chase down Thomas Briggs, but Bryce did not take the fresh wets and Thomas did. So they're on slightly different strategies out there. And if we start to see Thomas pull away from Bryce, then that'll answer our question if it was worth him spending that extra time.
It's going to be so interesting to find this out over the next few laps. Still looking for sector times that are looking remotely like what the wet tyre runners are able to do. And for the moment, we just can't see them. The wet tyre runners are still in the money. But I can barely believe it, to be honest with you. It is so dry looking out there, and the wet tyre runners are looking so hard for wet patches on the circuit. I've got no idea how they're coping with it.
Just making those wet tires into dry tires here and getting them balled before this is over. Now that pit stops are done, one last time, we do want to mention Princess Cruises because they're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So, yeah, just a strange one all around. Those who put on the dries do look like they've lost a bit of time, but most of those in front of them did not change onto fresh wet, so they saved some time for that, and that kind of skews it here. It's kind of strange. It almost reminds me a bit of, I don't know if you remember Turkey back in 2020, where drivers did drive the tires essentially until they were bald out there, because the warm wets actually did more for them than trying to put on fresh new ones.
Yeah, so it's a slick to mediate. I called it by the end because it was so bold. It was like a slick tyre, but at the start of the stint, it was an intermediate tyre, which is not what we have to deal with here. You've got the full lot, or you've got no tread at all on these tyres in GT3. No intermediate is available, but yeah, there might be something like that going on right now. Certainly, the tyre temperature is certainly something at play here. The warm-up phase is really hurtful for these dry tyres, as we saw with Jesse Lyon. If you could go out with fully, warm, dry tyres, then it'd be a much different story. But you just don't get that luxury, and so the warm-up phase is really difficult. And you're going to really struggle to actually get them up to temperature as well. Brett Holmes last time around, for example, he's the closest to our leaders, by the way. He was on dry tyres. Well, he is now, because of this spin. Or Wang, who's facing backwards. He was, 2.9 off in the first sector, only 6 tenths off in the middle sector, and actually faster than the likes of Fernandez in the middle sector. And we're waiting for the last sector, obviously, because not everyone crossed the line yet. But yeah, it's the middle sector. If the whole circuit was like the middle sector, then it'd be fine. But it's obviously not.
So Patterson also coming off the final turn. We were looking for our head-turning moment in strategy calls, and I think Thomas Briggs may have figured it out. He did a 53.8 on his first full lap. Now, it's slowed down to a 54.3, but he was also overtaking some lap traffic. That is looking decently quicker than Braun, Brooks, and Prescott, I believe. Yeah, because only Prescott has been able to dip into the 54s. So I think Briggs might be on his way to catch up to them. It's just, does he have the time?
Well, that's one way to get your tyres warm. That's also one way to make somebody else spin there, Christopher Pice. Was that Henson in the back? No, it wasn't. No, sorry, it's Kevin Jokel. Getting up on the curb himself and going around that. So it shows that it's not only the dry tyre runners, he's on wets and he's still spun around, so it's very difficult indeed. Yeah, you're right about Brooks gaining time, but I'm just not sure this is going to be quite good enough before the end of the race. Not sure he's gaining quite enough. Half a second in the first sector that time around, but he actually lost 4 tenths again to the leader in the middle sector. So, yeah, I'm not sure that's coming down quite quickly enough for Briggs. He's going to have to be cursing that spin in the first stint. If he was up there in the front 4 and he had this speed suddenly, then he might be in the game. But unfortunately, that spin might well cost him at the end of the day.
It's not just one lap. It's the whole picture that decides the winner. And speaking of Brooks, he's sticking with Braun, or excuse me, no, that's Brooks being chased by Prescott. He's losing Braun. It's up to 3 seconds now. So Chris is running away. He was being held up by being stuck behind those other cars. It strikes me that at the front of the fields, it feels like track position is still king, even though it's wet.
It's so weird. I've never seen a track take this long to dry, to be honest with you. And maybe it's the fact that we've only got one, car class around here. And, the most time I've seen rain previously has been multi-class racing, where there are more drivers and cars on the field because it's an iRacing special event, for example, or you've got the lap traffic taking different lines other than the racing line to actually pass traffic. Round here, generally, everyone's on the same train tracks, if you like, through the racing line, so that doesn't help either. But it's so bizarre. I can't believe it's taking this long, and I'm not sure I have many reasons as to why it's taking this long either. I mean, maybe track temperature is the only notable thing I can see sticking out. 17 degrees Celsius is very low, 62 Fahrenheit on the circuit. That's very low, but even so, I can't believe how long the wets are staying viable, to be honest.
I do love the fact, though, that it has really kept everybody on their toes. We've seen pretty much all the drivers left guessing and having to make their best educated effort towards it to figure out what's the best way forward. Nicky Chan, by the way, gets a second checkered, or not checkered flag, a black flag out there. So another penalty for him. That was for lap 26. He's already in pit lane, so he must have gotten some severe damage. He's sitting in there stationary right now.
He's not going to overtake Henson in the clean driver standings that way. Start of the day, 6 incidents behind. Henson himself has been involved in trouble, but is not going to drop out the top space, I don't think. So looks like my criticisms earlier of them not taking dry tyres earlier on is going to be, well, laughed at later if any of these drivers watch it back again. They were absolutely vindicated to stay on the wet tyres for as long as possible. This track just has not dried. For reference, this rain stopped over 50 minutes ago.
And the highest driver on the dry tires is Brett Holmes right now. He's running consistent 159, so still massively slower than our leaders. And he's running in ninth. For those around him, I'm seeing 156s for the cars nearby him as well. So Brett Holmes, expect him to drop down our tower on the left-hand side as these final laps go through.
Yeah, probably got 3 laps to go at the end of this one. He's losing about 3 seconds a lap. Only did 55 last time, Holmes. So maybe, finally now, he might be getting some speed. And he can hold off Klaus Nielsen, maybe. We'll see. Middle sector that time, and final sector, he was quickest of anybody. So, well, if this was 10 minutes ago, we might have a right race in our hands, but there's only 3 laps left.
And it's looking more and more like Chris Braun has it under control, because this battle is still for that second position. Prescott, who was hoping to try and vie for the win, is now looking at maybe second best. There you see them heading towards Ravazza, and it's been close between the pair of them. But as he found in the first stage of this race, being behind this purple and black machine is very difficult to deal with. He gets right up on top of him, tries to get the throttle down. He's very close.
He is. You're going to get a big slipstream down here at Imola. It's a very long flat-out run from the exit of Ravazza on the way towards the Tamburello chicane. So even though he didn't get quite as good of an exit, he is going to get the slipstream. Now over the start-finish line, surely he's going to be forced to the outside. He'll sneak to the inside maybe. He's not got on the... Oh, my word! How did he save that? He got on the puddles. He won't have experienced that for absolutely ages. He's got on the puddles. He's somehow saved it, and he's not caused a two-car incident. Remarkable.
Kerry Brooks lives to fight another day. I mean, even if it winds up being second place, I have to take my hat off to the 177. This has just been a phenomenal drive, although he leaves the door open. Prescott finally takes it, and he gets through. That's been a long time coming. He might not be able to hold on because it looks like Kerry pulls a bit of an over-under and tries to get him back, but he runs out of racetrack up the hill.
He's not going to get back past here, Kerry Brooks. It's going to be Robbie Prescott into second place, and he might be wondering if he could have done that earlier on in the race, would the outcome be different? Well, the pace that Chris Braun is showing right now suggests maybe not, but have a look at this save. Aquaplaning through the puddle, inside line. To be honest, if you're Brooks in that situation there, you're leaving the inside open. Prescott goes down the inside of it. I'd be thinking in towards Tozer. You've got to go and pull the car over to the left there and defend the inside line, but he didn't do that. Maybe it wouldn't have been too much anyway. Maybe Prescott's too quick for him, but it was a big defence from, well, a lack of a big defence rather for Brooks that has been his undoing, I think, in these final minutes.
Fast hands on Robbie Prescott, that is for sure, but Brooks lacking pace at the end of the race. I get the feeling he set his up for the wet weather because he looked stronger earlier on, and now the car is certainly falling off as the track continues to dry up. Good news for him, 3 minutes left means that unless Thomas Briggs has a huge increase in pace or Brooks makes a mistake, it looks like he'll at least finish on the podium.
Yep. It's going to be a well-earned, hard-earned podium from all the drivers who are going to end there today as well. Wait, a very well-earned drive indeed. As we have a look at Arthur Chan here, all the way down the back end of the field. I'll say that he's 8th place at the moment, just in behind Lenny Holland. just ahead of Brett Holmes as well, who's right behind him now, finally experiencing the benefits of having dry tyres on. It's a problem for him, it's just come all too late. 53.7 from him last time round. He's one of the fastest laps of the race. I think he is going to end the race with the fastest lap, actually, as he closes in on these two.
Yeah, it's interesting how suddenly things have come alive, but like you said, it's just too little too late there, as Brett Holmes now a 54.3. Looks like the temperature's finally coming in for those dry tire drivers, and Holmes will at least have a top 10 on his hands if things stay as they are, but it's going to be tough for him to get offline and try and pass Chan and Holland in front of him, or at least Chan, excuse me. That is a lapped car. That's Leif Peterson between them right now, so a bit of a different picture there. This is Holland. He's well up the road, although no, that's also a lapped car, excuse me, so he's not fighting for position. That's Chad Henson, who's just going to get out of the way and let him through. Meanwhile, Wang, looking like he's got a bit of a battle with Jokel. I was going to say, meanwhile, Chris Braun is now taking the white flag.
Yes, one more lap to go, but Wang was 2 seconds and a half quicker than Jokel last time around, so he's going very quickly. Thomas Briggs just did a 51.9, which doesn't count because he had an off-track somewhere. Must have missed an entire chicane somewhere around. That's an outrageously fast time on wet tyres, 51.9. But anyway, that's all coming a bit late for him. And Bryce Rodriguez is going to be very pleased that he's got the championship sewn up already, because he's underfueled, I think, and he's had to put an extra lap in at the very end of this race. I said that the or has he got to dry? No, he has got to put a lap of fuel in. I said that the calculations are going to be all whacked up because of the drying track late on. He's fallen afoul of it here, and he's going to have his worst result of the season tied if David Fernandez gets past here.
It's going to be close. Yeah, I think Fernandez is by him. There he is, as now he gets up to speed. Bryce falls to 6th position, which is still a real testament to how amazing Bryce has been racing this season, that he ties his worst, and it's still just shy of a top 5 out there. So phenomenal run and a worthy champion, no doubt. As we check back in with Chris Braun, a worthy win from him. I mean, stayed patient, waited for the race to come to him, had his pit stop perfect exactly when he needed it, and then basically has executed since those pit stops.
That's absolutely fantastic from Chris Braun. He is being caught late on here, but he's been the fastest driver today. I don't think there was too much strategy to his race, actually, in terms of when is he going to pit, what is he going to do in the pit stops. Generally did the same as everybody else. Followed the two in front of him to just do the same service that they did. But his speed, especially after the pit stops, is too much for everybody else.
Well, still, it looks like some brains over brawn today for Chris Braun as he comes away with victory in the final race of Series 13 here at a very rainy Imola.
Great drive, and 2.7 seconds is gap at the line as Robbie Prescott was really closing in. He'll be ruining that mistake down at Ravazza that maybe prevented him from battling for that victory.
And by the way, Briggs was within almost half a second of Kerry Brooks at the line. So another lap, Kerry might have fallen off the podium. And then, my goodness, the top of the field really just stomped everybody else. Fernandez is going to come home in 5th, 37 seconds behind our winner.
It's a really big gap outside the top 5. There's Bryce Rodriguez, though. Unofficially our champion. He was mathematically uncatchable after the Hungaroring. Of course, the stewards and the organisers still have to verify the results. However, it is Bryce Rodriguez who we think will be our champion, and a very deserving champion at that as well, even if it's going to end up losing a fairly huge 60 points on the last day.
Typically in these races, you'd expect a few drivers to make up huge amounts of positions. Honestly, our hard charger is Matthew Jokel, and I say only, but it's only 9 positions. I expected a few more crazy results out there, and didn't see a whole lot of flexibility in terms of who gained on this one. A few big losers, though, certainly, with some fast drivers falling out of this race. But not for Chris Braun. He comes away a winner as he wraps up the season with the top spot. Robbie Prescott will finish P2, and Kerry Brooks, in spite of having the lead for much of the race, has to settle for P3, but still, as we said, highly commendable race from him. Thomas Briggs almost onto the podium, but in 4th. Then it's Fernandez, P5, as Bryce Rodriguez will take an extra pit stop, but still finish 6th, and unofficially our champion, Lenny Holland 7th, Arthur Chan 8th, Brett Holmes 9th, and Klaus Nielsen rounds out the top 10.
Wang just outside that minute mark as well with that late tyre change. Matthew Jokel, the biggest mover forward, up to 12th place ahead of Matthew Tudor, who had a couple of spins early on. Jesse Lyons' early dry tyre gamble didn't work, and I've got to say I feel slightly personally responsible for it. Anyway, Christopher Pies finishes just in behind him. Another driver on the dries at the end. Gregor Otto and Patterson were just inside the lead lap. Kevin Jokel, Ryan Cowley and Chad Henson would just put 1 lap down before the end.
And it's Leif Peterson, Nicky Chan, Eric Sutton, and Justin Sang rounding out our 24 cars, with Chan, Sutton, and Sang unfortunately being DNFs in the end. But considering how many cars we saw off, it's kind of amazing that we only had those 3 that retired prematurely. Now, I was hoping we get to chat with Braun, but I don't see him in yet. So I guess we'll start with P2 with Robbie Prescott then. As well, we just had Braun in, but we'll start with Prescott anyways, because one thing I want to talk to Robbie about is perhaps the moments of the race. Robbie, coming down into the first chicane into Tamburello, we saw your car get all out of sorts. What was going through your head when you were trying to make that overtake?
Nothing at the moment. I was just so focused and locked in that Kerry was trying to be defensive, which I respect, and my car got on the grass, and I just lost it, and instincts kicked in, flicked the wheel, let off the gas, and just kept going. I didn't really think about it until the end. Well,
it took us out of our seats for sure. It looked extremely exciting, but then you finally got by. Is it something where it was just difficult to try and overtake once you got into the wake of the car ahead? Because it seemed like you had speed up until you got behind him.
Yeah, I just couldn't get the exit runs. Not gonna lie, that send was just off pure anger. As soon as Bryce spun in the chicane early on the race, I knew it was my race to lose, and I messed up, and I made a couple mistakes that I shouldn't have, and then they pulled away. So I gotta respect it to them. I mean, they had clean races and drove pretty well, but I'm just kind of more disappointed in myself because I knew I had the pace, and my car was set up pretty well for me.
But I don't think you need to be too disappointed, because there was a lot of very fast drivers that made mistakes out there. How would you rate this on difficulty? It looked just unbearable for some drivers out there.
Hardest, but most fun race of the season. I think this is what the pro class is all about. Give us challenges, give us different weathers, give us different strategies. Every practice we did leading up to this, we were able to switch to dry tires. And then in the race, you just couldn't. Jesse played a role and took one for the team because he was farther back for Thomas Briggs and I. And he's like, no, keep going on wets. And Thomas and I were yelling at each other in the pits, going, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And then finally at the pit stop, we said, screw it, and we took wets, which I think was the right call.
Yeah, it did look like the right call. You'll see if you go back and watch that the dry tires didn't honestly come in until the last 2 or 3 laps. So again, impressive, a podium to wrap things up, and a 1 win on the season as well. Congratulations on P2.
Yeah, thank you. Can't complain. Bryce was a legit driver this year, so he deserved that win, and I'm happy to get second, and we'll see how next season goes. So shout out to Solpec, and then all my friends hopefully watching back home.
Robbie Prescott, second place unofficially in the championship, and as well on the track. I believe our winner has shown up, and Ewan's going to be talking to Chris Braun.
Chris, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the win in the final race of the season. I said at the line there that win for yourself was more down to pace than strategy. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I thought it was a little bit of both. I think at the end I had the pace, but probably more because of my tires. I think the first half of the race I knew I had to conserve fronts because I was going to keep the fronts on the whole race, and I knew I had to conserve them, so I was just taking it easy on them, and then just abusing my rears because I was going to change those, and I think that helped. When I came out of the pits, I was surprised on how much more pace I had on the cars behind me, and I was just able to gap them when I needed to. And so that felt pretty good, and I was able to at the end there just kind of take it home and take it easy. So that was great.
in that case, then, just try and give us an idea for those obviously who don't set these cars up for wet to dry conditions like what you guys had to experience here today. Explain to us how Kerry Brooks was able to get such a big lead because of the pole time and raced out to a lead in the real wet conditions. Then you all seemed to come back again as it got dry again. Was that down to setup or something else?
I don't know. I don't know what his setup was. I'll probably have to talk to him about that. But it could be down to setup. He may have set it up for a wetter race, and then it got dry. But honestly, I set my car up for a pretty wet race as well. So I don't know. We'd have to talk to Kerry. Wonder why he was a little bit off the pace in the later stages of the race. It might have been his fronts were just cooked, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I was trying to ask you to predict what Kerry Brooks' setup was. That'd be a bit of an unfair question, to be fair. What did you have more in mind, though, when you were setting the car up? Was it that dry run to the end, drier run, or was it the really bad conditions at the start?
You know, when I ran in the tests, it wasn't very dry at all the whole race. So I set it up for a pretty wet race, and I just wanted to make sure that I had tires at the end. And so that was mostly down to how I was going to use the tires. So I set it up for a really soft rear. I set the springs and the dampers up so that when I put the power down, I'd use the rears, and that allowed me to kind of be quick when I needed to be. And then when I replaced the rears, I still had grip. So that's what I was thinking.
All right, well, congratulations on the win either way, Chris. Thanks so much for coming to have a chat with us at the end of the race, as always, and enjoy the victory.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks very much. That's Chris Brown, the winner from Imola. It's a 6th winner in 7 races, by the way. We didn't talk about that over the line, but another different winner this season.
Indeed. And for P3, Kerry Brooks certainly was a fascinating race as well. Kerry, a 3rd place in the end, and after just an incredible qualifying, way ahead of anybody else. Are you disappointed, or what are your feelings about being on the final step of the podium?
Thank you, Joe. I am not disappointed. So, as you might be able to tell from the pole lap, my car was definitely set up for the wet, and my hope was it was going to rain as long as possible. I knew it was going to get really tight and hard to drive when it did sort of dry out. So, wanted to try and stay on the podium, let Robbie go. There was no fight there, and those 2 guys just sailed off. But quite happy.
Well, you answer the question that we had been asking, and makes me feel a little bit better, because sometimes I'll predict these things in the commentary booth and then look completely foolish afterwards. But you didn't look all that foolish out on the track, because that track position looked like it was pretty key for much of the race.
I bet early on it was very difficult with all the spray to be anywhere in traffic. So getting out into the lead initially allowed me to just have some pace, and you probably saw sector 3 was really, really rough for me, but everywhere else I think that there was a lot of challenge being in that spray early on. So you're absolutely right. The track position meant a lot.
Now, we expected drivers to switch to dry tires at some point. Very few did in the end. Did you know coming into this that you were going to try and stay on wets, or did that come as a surprise?
Well, my plan was to stay on wets, and it was quite challenging to prepare for the race, to be honest. And sometimes in a test drive or an AI session, you set up the timeline the same, and you actually get different results. And so there was a point where dries, I think, were going to start to really come in, but it was going to be, as far as I was concerned, beyond the pit window. So once I saw the status of the track, I guess around qualifying at the start of the race, I felt comfortable that the wets were still going to be the way to go. I know a couple guys that were on dries there at the end. They said with maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes to go, they started to come in. But yep, my plan, absolutely stay in the wets and see if I could hold on.
Well, that still worked out fantastic. Again, congratulations on a podium, and really your drive stunned us up at the front. You did a fantastic job.
I appreciate it, Joe. I'd like to thank you guys. Amazing season. Thank Princess for their sponsorship, PCA, and of course I would be remiss to mention last 10th on the podium in 2 positions, so that's awesome. Thank you, Nikki Chen.
It's the pride there for Kerry Brooks, who comes home in P3, which is going to wrap us up. But we are not done with the racing yet in Series 13. This might be the final round for the pro class, but we'll be back tomorrow night, Thursday, April 3rd, for the club class here at Imola. Big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro and Ewan. Also, thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.